Imagine this for a second. You get a phone call that changes your life forever. You are out on a boat in the middle of the ocean, enjoying a sailing trip with your friends, and then the police radio in to tell you that your pregnant wife has been murdered, strangled in her own bedroom back home. You are miles away. You have been gone since Friday night. There is nothing you could have done, nothing you could have known. You just spoke to her on the phone before you left, told her you loved her, and now she is gone. Her and your unborn baby boy. That is exactly what happened to a man named Ed Sherman in a small town in Connecticut back in 1985. His wife Ellen was found dead in their home, 5.5 months pregnant. No signs of forced entry, no robbery, just a young woman who would never take another breath. The police had no leads, no suspects, no answers. This case seemed impossible to solve. But then investigators discovered something strange. Actually, they discovered a lot of strange things. So settle in, because what really happened in that house is absolutely wild from start to finish. Hi, sweet ones. My name is Grandma Kitty, and before we dive in, take a second to subscribe if cases like this intrigue you. It helps me keep these stories coming. And while you're at it, tell me where you're watching from. That's how we find our neighbors here in our little true crime corner. Let me tell you a little bit about Ed and Ellen Sherman. This couple lived in a little town called Niantic in Connecticut, one of those quiet, peaceful places where everybody knows their neighbors and nothing much ever happens. Ed and Ellen had been married for 16 years. 16 years of building a life together. Ed was a smart man. I mean, really smart. He taught business classes at a local community college, and he was a member of this organization called Mensa. Now, if you do not know what Mensa is, let me explain. It is a club for people with extremely high IQs, genius-level intelligence. You have to take a test to get in, and only the smartest of the smart make the cut. Ed was one of those people. He knew it too. Ellen worked in her family's publishing business, good steady work, and at the time of this story, she was 5.5 months pregnant with their child, a baby boy. Their first. Everything seemed to be falling into place for this couple. Now let me tell you a little something about Ellen, because this is important. This woman was an absolute sweetheart. I am not just saying that. Everyone who met Ellen Sherman adored her. She had one of those smiles that could light up a whole room. Whenever you saw her, she had a friendly hello ready for you. Did not matter who you were, rich or poor, old or young. Ellen treated everybody with warmth and kindness. She was the type of person who made you feel good just by being around her. The kind of woman you would want as a neighbor, as a friend, as a daughter. There was not a mean bone in her body. And now she was about to become a mother. Life was good for Ellen Sherman, or at least that is how it looked from the outside. On a Friday night in August of 1985, Ed Sherman packed his bags for a sailing trip. He was going with 4 of his friends. A whole week out on the water, sailing down from Maine along the coast. They would stop at Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, all the beautiful spots along the way. It was a boys' trip, something they did regularly, always a great time. Good friends, good weather, good sailing. Ed kissed his pregnant wife goodbye and headed out the door. Ellen stayed behind. She had work to do. And besides, someone needed to take care of the house and the family dog. She waved her husband off and settled in for a quiet weekend at home. That was the last time anyone saw Ellen Sherman alive. 2 days later, on Sunday afternoon, Ed tried to call his wife from the boat. He wanted to check in on her, make sure she was doing okay. After all, she was pregnant. He worried about her being home alone. But the phone just rang and rang. No answer. Ed tried again. Still nothing. He called multiple times throughout the day. Every single time, the phone would ring and nobody would pick up. Now Ed started getting worried. This was not like Ellen. She always answered the phone. Where could she be? Why was she not picking up? So Ed did what any concerned husband would do. He called a friend, a man named Len Fredrickson. Len was close with both Ed and Ellen, good friend of the couple. Ed asked him to please go by the house and check on Ellen, make sure everything was okay. Len Fredrickson drove over to the Sherman house. By the time he got there, it was starting to get dark outside. Right away, he noticed some things that seemed a little off. The air conditioner was running. He could hear it from outside, loud, going full blast. The lights were on inside the house and outside too. Everything looked normal enough. But then Len tried the doors. Every single one was locked. Now, this might not sound strange to you, but it was very strange for the Shermans. See, Ed and Ellen always left their house open. They lived in a safe little town. Crime was basically non-existent. Len used to joke with Ellen about it. He would say, "One day you are going to come home and find everything gone." But Ellen would just laugh. That was just how they lived. So, why was everything locked up tight tonight? Len knocked on the door. No answer. He knocked again. Nothing. He called out Ellen's name. Silence. Something was not right. Len walked around the house and found a window that was unlocked. He climbed through it to get inside. The family dog was there, wandering around. But no, Ellen. He called her name again. Ellen? Ellen, are you home? Nothing. Len started walking through the house. Everything looked normal downstairs. Nothing out of place, nothing disturbed. He made his way to the stairs and headed up to the second floor. When he got to the bedroom door, he stopped, took a breath, pushed it open, and that is when his whole world changed. Ellen was on the bed, lifeless, not moving, not breathing. Her nightclothes were on the floor. Her underwear, too. The bedding was all messed up. It looked like something terrible had happened in that room. Something violent. Len could not believe what he was seeing. Why would anyone hurt this wonderful woman, this sweet, pregnant lady who never had a bad word for anybody? It did not make sense. None of it made sense. He called the police immediately. When investigators arrived at the scene, they began piecing together what had happened. There were red marks around Ellen's neck, ligature marks, they call them, clear signs of strangulation. Someone had wrapped something around this woman's throat and squeezed until she stopped breathing. The medical examiner came and examined the body based on something called rigor mortis, which is when the body stiffens up after death. They estimated that Ellen was killed sometime Saturday night or early Sunday morning, just a day or two ago. But there were other signs, too. Signs that Ellen did not go quietly. Her fingernails were bent backwards, damaged. That happens when someone is fighting for their life, when they are trying to pry hands away from their throat, when they are scratching and clawing at their attacker. Ellen had fought back hard, which meant whoever killed her probably had scratches on them, deep ones. Investigators searched the rest of the house, looking for clues, and they found something interesting. Or rather, they did not find something. There were no signs of forced entry. Nobody had kicked in a door. Nobody had smashed a window. Whoever killed Ellen Sherman either had a key or was let in willingly. And nothing was missing. The valuables were still there. The jewelry, the electronics, everything was in its place. This was not a robbery gone wrong, which meant Ellen probably knew her killer. She probably opened that door and let him right in, trusted them. And then they took her life. The police had to deliver the terrible news to Ed Sherman. He was still out on the ocean with his friends, completely unaware of what had happened. They used the ship to shore radio to reach him. Can you imagine getting that call? You are out on a boat, enjoying the sunshine and the salt air, and suddenly the police are telling you that your pregnant wife has been murdered, that she is gone, that the life you knew is over. Ed Sherman had 4 witnesses who could confirm he was on that boat when Ellen died. 4 friends who were with him the entire trip. Miles of ocean between him and Connecticut. He could not have done this. There was no way. At least, that is how it looked at first. But Detective Mike Malkick was not the type to take things at face value. He started digging into the Shermans' lives, and what he found was shocking. Ed and Ellen Sherman did not have the perfect marriage everyone thought they had. Far from it. Behind closed doors, their lifestyle was full of deception and secrets, things that would make your jaw drop. When investigators talked to Ed about the night he left for the sailing trip, he told them he had called Ellen from his friend's house before they set off. He said he talked to her on the phone, reminded her to go to the bank and make some deposits. Regular husband and wife stuff. And there were witnesses who heard him on that phone, people who could confirm he made the call. So Ellen was definitely alive when Ed left. That is what the evidence showed. But then the investigation took a turn that nobody expected. Ed Sherman had a mistress, and he was not even trying to hide it. When the police asked him about his personal life, he was shockingly open about the whole thing. Yes, he had a girlfriend. Her name was Nancy Prescott. She was his co-worker. And get this, they had a child together, a baby that was not Ellen's. Ellen knew about Nancy. She even had a nickname for her. She called Nancy the Valley Girl because Nancy was nothing like Ellen. She was blonde, flashy, a completely different type of woman. But the affair was just the beginning. Ed Sherman wanted what he called an open marriage. He actually encouraged Ellen to go out and have affairs of her own. He pushed this lifestyle on her constantly, but Ellen did not want any part of it. She loved her husband. She wanted a normal marriage, a faithful marriage. But Ed kept pushing. Now, what I am about to tell you shows just how dark this marriage really was. But before I continue, if you are still with me, do me a favor and hit that like button. It takes 1 second and it helps get this story out to more people. And if you are not subscribed yet, go ahead and tap that button too, because this story is about to get even crazier. All right, let me tell you what else was going on in the Sherman house. One of Lynn Fredrickson's memories really stuck with investigators. He remembered being at a New Year's Eve party at the Sherman house back in 1984, just the year before Ellen was killed. There were several couples at this party, nice people, friends of Ed and Ellen. Everyone was having a good time, drinks flowing, music playing, normal party stuff. But then things took a turn. Lynn realized that this was not just a regular New Year's Eve party. The plan for the evening was for the couples to swap partners. That is right. Husband with someone else's wife. Wife with someone else's husband. That was what Ed had organized. Ed actually came up to Lynn and asked him if he wanted to participate. Asked if the woman he brought with him would be interested too. Lynn could not believe what he was hearing. He looked at Ed and said, "No, thank you. We are leaving." And they walked right out the door. Ed was the one pushing all of this. He was the one who wanted this lifestyle. He was the one organizing these parties and trying to get everyone involved. Ellen, she never wanted any of it. Not the open marriage, not the girlfriend, not the swapping parties, none of it. She just wanted a normal husband who loved her and only her. But that was not Ed Sherman. Now the investigation needed to dig deeper into the physical evidence. They called in one of the most famous forensic scientists in the country, a man named Dr. Henry Lee. At the time, Dr. Lee was the director of the Connecticut Crime Lab. He had worked on some of the biggest cases in America. When he showed up to help, investigators knew they were getting the best of the best. Dr. Lee examined the photos of the marks on Ellen's neck, the ligature marks from the strangulation, and he noticed something strange, something everyone else had missed. There was a faint pattern in those marks, a zigzag pattern, very unique, very specific. At first, Dr. Lee did not know what could have caused such a pattern. It was unlike anything he had seen before. So he started comparing the pattern to items found at the crime scene. And that is when he looked at the torn underwear that was found on the floor near Ellen's body. He took those panties and stretched them out. And what do you think he saw? The exact same zigzag pattern. When the fabric stretched, it created the same pattern that was left on Ellen's neck. It matched perfectly. So, the killer had wrapped Ellen's underwear around her neck. That much was clear. But wait, there was a problem. Other evidence told a completely different story. The autopsy revealed that the cartilage in Ellen's throat was fractured, crushed. Now, here's the thing about that. You cannot fracture that cartilage by strangling someone with a piece of fabric. It is just not possible. That kind of damage only happens when someone uses their bare hands, when they squeeze with all their strength. So what did this mean? It meant that Ellen was strangled with bare hands first. Someone wrapped their fingers around her throat and killed her. And then, after she was already dead, the killer wrapped her underwear around her neck. Why would someone do that? To stage the scene, to make it look like a sex crime, to make it look like some random attacker broke in and assaulted this poor woman. The killer was trying to throw investigators off the trail. But Dr. Lee saw right through it. There was more evidence on the bed, too. When investigators shined an ultraviolet light on the bed sheets, they found biological evidence. A lot of it. We are talking about 150 to 200 individual stains. Now, you might think this would help identify the killer, but unfortunately, the material was too old and too degraded for DNA testing. It had been there for a long time. It had even survived being washed. There was nothing useful they could pull from it. So that was a dead end. Investigators started looking at other suspects, and one name kept coming up. Nancy Prescott, Ed's mistress. Maybe Nancy was angry about something. Maybe she wanted Ed all to herself. After all, there was a recent development that might have made her very upset. When Ellen got pregnant, she put her foot down. She told Ed that she wanted him home. She wanted him to be a father to this baby. She wanted him to give up the girlfriend once and for all. And Ed agreed. He told Ellen he would end things with Nancy. He said he would be a real husband and a real father. No more double life. No more sneaking around. He was going to do the right thing. So maybe Nancy found out about this. Maybe she was furious that Ed was cutting her off. Maybe she decided if she could not have Ed, nobody could have Ellen either. Police investigated Nancy Prescott thoroughly. They looked into her whereabouts on the night of the murder. They dug into her background. They even asked Ed to take a polygraph test, a lie detector. He agreed to take it without any fuss, but the results came back inconclusive. Not a pass, not a fail, just somewhere in the middle. It did not prove anything one way or the other. And Nancy? She had a solid alibi for the night Ellen was killed. She could prove she was somewhere else entirely. The case was going cold. Weeks passed. Then months. Every lead seemed to hit a dead end. But Detective Mike Malchik made a promise. He sat down with Ellen's mother, a woman named Rose, and he looked her in the eyes. He promised her that he would not give up. He would find whoever did this to her daughter, no matter how long it took. Now let me ask you something. Ed Sherman was on a boat in the middle of the ocean when his wife died. He had 4 friends who could swear he was with them the whole time. That seems like a perfect alibi, does it not? Airtight, unbreakable. But do you really believe he had nothing to do with this? Think about everything you have heard so far. The open marriage he pushed for, the mistress with his child, the swapping parties, a wife who was about to demand he change his ways. What do you think really happened? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I want to hear what you are thinking right now. Detective Malkick refused to give up. And then he got lucky. Really lucky. Someone told him about a movie that had a murder in it that was almost identical to what happened to Ellen Sherman. A movie that might just crack this whole case wide open. Now let me explain why time of death was so important in this investigation. Ed Sherman was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean on Sunday when Ellen's body was discovered. He was miles and miles away. If Ellen died on Saturday night or Sunday morning like the medical examiner originally estimated, then there was absolutely no way Ed could have killed her. His alibi would be airtight. But if Ellen died earlier, if she died on Friday night before Ed ever got on that boat, then everything changes. Time of death is one of the most important things in any murder investigation. It can prove a suspect is innocent, or it can prove they are guilty. In this case, everything depended on figuring out exactly when Ellen took her last breath. The original estimate was based on something called rigor mortis. This is when the body stiffens up after death. It usually starts a few hours after someone dies and lasts about 12 to 24 hours. Then the body starts to relax again and become soft. When Lynn Fredrickson found Ellen's body on Sunday evening, rigor mortis was in its final stages. The body was starting to become pliable again. Based on this, the medical examiner estimated she died Saturday night or Sunday morning. But Dr. Lee found something in the investigator reports, something that everyone had overlooked, something that changed everything. It was something Lynn Fredrickson said when he first entered that bedroom. He said it was like walking into a freezer. The air conditioner in that bedroom was blasting at full power. It was way colder in that room than any normal person would ever set it. Fredrickson described it as extremely cold, unusually cold, almost unbearable. And here is why that matters. Cold temperatures slow everything down. They slow decomposition, and most importantly, they slow rigor mortis. If Ellen's body had been in a freezing cold room since Friday night, the rigor mortis would have progressed much slower than normal. It would look like she died later than she actually did. Dr. Lee put it all together. The time of death was definitely not Sunday. Every indicator pointed to Friday night, before Ed ever got on that boat. If Ellen was killed on Friday night, Ed Sherman had plenty of time to commit the murder. He did not leave for the sailing trip until around 7 in the evening. He could have killed his pregnant wife and still made it to the boat on time. The air conditioner was not an accident, it was a trick, and the evidence against Ed started piling up even more. Remember, this was August, the middle of summer, hot and humid. Everyone on that sailing trip was wearing shorts and t-shirts. That is what you wear on a boat in the summer. That is what normal people wear when it is hot outside. But not Ed Sherman. Ed wore long pants the entire trip. He wore a turtleneck, long sleeves the whole time. His friends thought it was a little strange but did not say anything. It was just Ed being Ed. But now think about what we know. Ellen's fingernails were damaged, bent backwards. She had fought her attacker. She had scratched them, probably left deep marks on their arms. Ed Sherman was covering his arms the entire trip in August on a boat while everyone else was in shorts and t-shirts. Police asked Ed about this. They asked if he was hiding scratches. He denied it completely, said there was nothing under those long sleeves. But here is the thing Ed kept coming back to, his alibi for the phone call. Ed insisted that Ellen was alive and well when he left on Friday night. He said he stopped at his friend's house before heading to the boat and called Ellen from there. He talked to her on the phone, told her to go to the bank, said he loved her, and there were witnesses, people who heard Ed on that phone having a conversation with his wife. If Ellen was alive when Ed made that call, then she was still breathing when he got on the boat. And if she was still breathing, Ed could not have killed her. That phone call was his golden ticket, his proof of innocence, the thing that would keep him out of prison. Now, what I am about to tell you completely destroyed his perfect alibi. If you are still watching, hit that like button real quick. I promise you this next part is worth it. All right, let me tell you what really happened with that phone call. Ed was not the only person on that phone line. See, at his friend's house, there was a little girl, the friend's daughter. She was about 9 years old. And right around the time Ed was making his phone call to Ellen, this little girl picked up another phone in the house. She was about to make a call of her own. But when she picked up the receiver, she heard something. She heard Ed Sherman talking on the line. So she listened. She heard Ed talking, having a conversation, saying things like, "I love you too," making small talk, sounding like a husband talking to his wife. But here is the thing that made no sense to this little girl. The phone was just ringing. There was nobody on the other end. The phone was ringing and ringing and ringing. Nobody was picking up. Nobody was answering. Nobody was talking back. Ed Sherman was having a conversation with a ringing phone. He was saying, "I love you," to dead air. He was pretending to talk to his wife when there was nobody there. The little girl thought it was strange, but did not say anything at the time. Why would she? She was just a kid. She did not understand what she was hearing. But when the police started asking questions, she told them everything. 5 minutes after leaving his house on Friday night, Ed Sherman faked a phone call to his dead wife. He stood there in front of witnesses, pretending to have a conversation, pretending Ellen was alive and well, building his alibi. He did not know that a 9-year-old girl was listening in. He did not know that his perfect plan had a witness he never counted on. Ed Sherman was a member of Mensa, one of the smartest people in any room, but he got outsmarted by a little girl. He was not as clever as he thought he was, and there was still more. The morning of the sailing trip, before Ed left to meet his friends, he ran into someone he knew, a woman. They had a brief conversation. During that conversation, Ed recommended a movie to her. He told her she really needed to watch this film called Blackout. He said he particularly enjoyed it, thought it was really well done. Now, why is that important? Because of what happens in that movie. In the film Blackout, a man kills his wife and children. He puts their bodies inside the house, and then he manipulates the crime scene to fool the forensic scientists, to mask the true time of death. How does he do it? He puts the bodies in a cold room. He turns the air conditioner all the way up, and the cold temperature throws off all the calculations. The medical examiner cannot figure out when the victims actually died. Sound familiar? Ed Sherman did not just watch this movie. He studied it, he learned from it, and then he copied it. Same method, air conditioner on maximum, closed bedroom door, freezing cold room, all designed to make the police think Ellen died later than she actually did. He thought he had planned the perfect murder, and he was so proud of himself that he recommended the movie to someone the same day he killed his wife. But wait, it gets even creepier. After Ellen's death, Ed's behavior was strange, very strange. He displayed what people described as a morbid fascination with the details of his wife's murder. He would ask people questions, the same questions, over and over again. Do you know if they have determined the time of death yet? He asked that constantly. He was obsessed with knowing what the police had figured out about when Ellen died. And then one time, he asked a friend something that made their skin crawl. He asked if they knew how a body decomposes. What happens to a body after death? What kind of person asks questions like that about their own murdered wife? A guilty person. That is who. Now let me ask you this. He got the idea for the perfect murder from a movie. Then he recommended that same movie to someone on the very day he killed his wife. How arrogant can one person be? How confident do you have to be in your own intelligence to make a mistake like that? Tell me what you think in the comments. So why did Ed Sherman kill his pregnant wife? What could possibly drive a man to murder the mother of his unborn child? The answer is simple: money and control. Despite Ed agreeing to end things with Nancy and be a real husband and father, Ellen had made a decision of her own. She wanted a divorce. She could not live like this anymore. She told people that Ed would never really change. He would never truly be a faithful husband. He would never be a real father. He would always have his double life, always have his secrets, always have other women. Ellen was done, and here is where things got really serious for Ed. Ellen was the majority owner of the family publishing business. She had the money, she had the assets, she had the power. If they divorced, Ellen told Ed exactly what he would get. He could have his girlfriend, and he could have his sailboat. That was it. Everything else was hers. Ed Sherman was about to lose everything. His comfortable lifestyle, his financial security, his status in the community, all of it was about to disappear because his pregnant wife was finally standing up for herself. And Ed was not going to let that happen. Let me walk you through what investigators believe happened on that Friday night. Ed and Ellen had a light dinner together. Just a normal evening meal, nothing unusual. When they finished, Ellen went upstairs to the bedroom to change her clothes. Ed followed her. When Ellen was in that bedroom, changing out of her day clothes, Ed attacked her. He wrapped his hands around her throat and squeezed. Ellen fought back. She scratched him. She tried to break free, but Ed was stronger. His pregnant wife, his baby boy still growing inside her, he killed them both in that bedroom. But Ed was not done. He needed to stage the scene. He took Ellen's underwear and wrapped it around her neck, made it look like a sex crime, made it look like some random attacker had broken in and assaulted her, threw the police off his trail. Then came the trick from the movie. Ed walked over to the air conditioner and turned it up as high as it would go, made the room freezing cold. Then he closed the bedroom door to keep all that cold air trapped inside. Just like in Blackout, he left the house around 7 in the evening, headed to his friend's place to meet up for the sailing trip. And that is when he made the fake phone call. He picked up the phone at his friend's house, dialed his home number, and pretended to have a conversation with Ellen. Said, "I love you," said he would see her soon. Made it sound like everything was normal. The witnesses heard him talking. They had no idea the phone was just ringing on the other end. They had no idea Ellen was already dead in her bedroom. Little did Ed know, a 9-year-old girl had picked up another phone in the house. She heard everything. She knew the truth. Ed got on the boat with his friends, sailed out into the Atlantic Ocean, built his perfect alibi. 2 days later, on Sunday, he started calling the house. Over and over. No answer. Then he called Lynn Fredrickson, asked him to check on Ellen, acted worried, acted concerned. He was not worried. He knew exactly what Fredrickson would find. He was just playing his role, the concerned husband, the grieving widower. He thought the cold room would fool everyone. He thought the rigor mortis would tell the wrong story. He thought he would get away with murder. just like in the movie, but science does not lie, and witnesses eventually talk. When everything came together, the case against Ed Sherman was overwhelming. Fredrickson described the freezing cold bedroom. That alone was suspicious. The 9-year-old girl revealed the fake phone call. That destroyed his alibi. The forensic evidence proved Ellen was strangled by bare hands, not fabric. The scene was staged, and the time of death was recalculated. Not Sunday, Friday, when Ed was still at home. Dr. Lee put it all together. He said science filled the gaps. It showed that a Sunday death was impossible. It proved Friday was the real time of death. It exposed the murder weapon and revealed the motive. Ed Sherman almost got away with it, very close. But almost is not good enough when you are dealing with detectives who refuse to give up. Detective Malkick went to arrest Ed Sherman. He walked into the room first. Ed looked up and saw him standing there. Their eyes met. Malkick said 4 simple words. "Ed, it is time." Ed Sherman turned white as a ghost. He started sweating. He knew exactly what those words meant. He knew his perfect plan had failed. He knew it was over. The genius member of Mensa, outsmarted by a 9-year-old girl with a telephone. The case went to trial 6 years after Ellen's death. Justice was slow, but it was coming. The forensic evidence was what mattered most to the jury. During their deliberations, they asked to hear the testimony again. They wanted to hear Dr. Lee explain the time of death. They wanted to hear the medical examiner break down the rigor mortis and the cold room. That evidence is what convinced them. The jury looked at everything. Ed had the time to commit the murder. He had the opportunity, and he definitely had the motive. Ellen was about to take everything from him, his money, his lifestyle, his freedom. So he took her life instead. The verdict came back. Guilty. First-degree murder. Ed Sherman was sentenced to 50 years in prison. Finally, after 6 years of investigation and legal proceedings, he was going to pay for what he did. But even after the verdict, Ed never admitted he did it. He showed some remorse. He said Ellen deserved a better lifestyle. He apologized for leading such an indulgent life. The affairs, the swapping parties, the double life. He said he was sorry for all of it. But when it came to the murder itself, he looked everyone in the eye and said he did not know who killed Ellen. Even after being convicted, even after the overwhelming evidence, even after the jury said he was guilty, he still would not admit the truth.